Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
If you are a rural Alaskan resident with an interest in preserving subsistence hunting, trapping, and fishing for future generations, and maintaining an open forum for public expressions, opinions, and concerns regarding subsistence, consider applying for one of the Federal Subsistence Regional Advisory Councils by Friday, January 29, 2016. More info at 1-800-478-1456 or email subsistence@fws.gov.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us here at KAKM for Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting tonight's show. We've got a blizzard watch out for tomorrow and tomorrow night here for the Yukon Delta, St. Lawrence Island, and the Bering Strait coast. For the Delta, looking at east winds gusting to, or east-northeasterlies gusting to about 40 miles an hour, snow and blowing snow, reducing visibilities down to zero at times, starting tomorrow. And then out here for the St. Lawrence Island area and the Bering Strait coast, look for those northeast winds gust to 60 miles an hour, and that'll create the same conditions, snow and blowing snow, and occasional whiteout conditions there. And then back way out to the west here, we've got a high wind warning out for tonight from Amchitka Island all the way out to Shimianatu, and that's for west winds to 85 miles per hour. And here's the storm system associated with that warning out there, pretty deep center out to the west there. The front pushing moisture across the central Aleutians, and that's spreading in towards Nikolsky this afternoon. Rain or snow spreading into the Pribilof Islands as well, with those winds gusting over 40 miles per hour this afternoon. Visibility is down to 3/4 of a mile or less at times, both St. George and St. Paul. And then wind and showers here decreasing throughout the day along the southwest coast and Alaska Peninsula as an area of high pressure moves over the region. And then rain and snow throughout the afternoon here at Kodiak Island. We've got a weakening front, this position 4 o'clock this morning, and it doesn't look like it, but that produced storm force winds across the Gulf of Alaska and the North Gulf Coast and gales down across the Panhandle, along with some rain and snow here over the southeast coast. Amounts not all that heavy, except for Kodiak Island, where they had over 2 inches. Otherwise, a little bit of moisture backing into the eastern Tanana Valley area, some light snow at Northway, almost as far north as Eagle, but not quite. And mid and high level clouds here, maybe a few flurries like around Sparavon, but basically dry through the interior today with light winds. The Arctic coast, not bad. Winds not too bad there, but some scattered areas of patchy fog and flurries. The entire length of the coastline in that area. But temperature is really not too bad for mid to late December. On the chart, here's that frontal system, and the last 24 hours, Kodiak Island had over 2 inches of rain, as I mentioned. Otherwise, Yakutat and Nanette picked up about 1/10 of an inch, so not a real big rain producer here, but areas of rain or snow depending on where you were here over the southeast coast, and then a little bit of snow, as I mentioned, coming into the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country, but not extending very far to the west. And then nothing going on over the interior really, and then the fog and flurries up along the Arctic coast, and the diminishing snow showers to the Alaska Peninsula. And then this next 953 millibar low way out there over the western Bering Sea, and that front driving eastward, spreading rain from the central Aleutians in toward the eastern areas, along with increasing winds and the snow again already into the Pribilof Islands, and milder conditions back to the west with rain showers all the way out toward Shimia. And for tonight, we'll see that system pushes eastward, so definitely look for an increase in the winds here along the southwest coast. St. Lawrence Island as well, but most of the moisture hanging back to the south, at least through tonight. Rain from the eastern Aleutians, Snow changes to rain as that front moves up with the southwest flow here into the Alaska Peninsula. And snow should change to rain here over the Pribilof Islands once that front goes through and the flow switches around to the southwest or west-southwest. And then colder air should finally drop the snowfall levels down to sea level out over the western Aleutians and bring some snow showers in toward the Shemya and Attu area. But that low center still quite deep at 945 millibars. Otherwise, a weak 995 millibar low over Cook Inlet. Not a lot of moisture with that, just some scattered snow shower conditions over the mountainous areas of south central Alaska. Also scattered showers along the North Gulf Coast, scattered rain and snow showers across the Panhandle, and a little bit of spotty flurry conditions in over the Copper River Basin and Tanana Valley. Kind of a batch of snow here or flurries up over the northeast interior, mostly from the upper Yukon Valley areas back down possibly toward the Eagle location. No change along the Arctic coast, and look for some clearing skies here over the west central interior back up to the Seward Peninsula and Kotzebue Sound. And then for tomorrow, kind of a weak upper level trough right through here will keep some clouds and a few flurries or snow showers over the Copper River Basin or the southeast interior. Should be a pretty dry day down across the southeast coast with some partly to mostly clear skies in areas. Still a risk of some snow showers up around mostly north of Juneau all the way up to Skagway, and some scattered shower conditions along the North Gulf Coast. Moisture from this low here system just staying to the south of Dixon Entrance throughout the day, and this front will spread some rain into Kodiak Island with increasing south to southeast winds throughout the day. And then the blizzard conditions here for the Yukon Delta out to St. Lawrence Island. Snow, blowing snow again, winds 40 to 60 miles per hour ahead of that front as it comes in and swings northward, but also milder conditions, kind of a mixture of rain or snow here from the Kuskokwim Delta down across Bristol Bay, and some light snow developing along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range here. And there could be a few flurries, as I mentioned, along the central and eastern Alaska Range as well. A little more light snow, a little more widespread up here along this trough axis from the eastern Arctic coast right down into the central interior, but amounts quite light, not amounting to too much. And you can see a broad stretch of westerly winds with showers here across the Aleutians into the southeast Bering Sea here with storms and gale force winds across the entire area. Looking ahead to Saturday, that low center tracks eastward here right to the coast, weakens to 965 millibars with still some gale and storm force winds associated with it. Batch of snow here from the Seward Peninsula down across west or eastern St. Lawrence Island toward the Pribilofs. A lot of snow showers coming in on that southwest flow off the Bering Sea. Rain and snow showers along the southwest coast. Scattered snow showers in over the southwest interior areas. And then that diminishes out to the west. Should be a pretty dry day with maybe some sunshine there for Adak and Atka. And then the next system bringing gale force winds back into the western Aleutians. Looks like southwesterlies at about 35 knots for Saturday. And then this low up here in a trough extending from the eastern Arctic coast. Look for some areas of light snow back in toward Kotzebue Sound, the Selawik Valley, and those areas. Then low pressure right up to southwestern Prince William Sound. Rain and snow along the coast, mostly in the form of rain right along the immediate coastline. And of course, that becoming snow as you get any elevation or any distance inland. And this front swinging into the Panhandle. Look for gale force winds here to develop along the coast. Small craft advisories over the inside waters with, again, rain and snow. Southern areas rain, northern areas they'll be in the form of snow. Scattered rain and snow showers for Kodiak Island with general westerly wind flow. So amounts will be quite light at whatever falls. Temperatures this afternoon across the Panhandle ranged from 43 degrees at Sitka to 34 at Juneau. Otherwise, Yakutat had about 38 this afternoon. Klawock, 39 degrees, 40 at Yakutat. Middleton Island, 41 degrees. 29 in Palmer, 34 at Kenai with 31 down at Homer. Lower to mid-30s there across Kodiak Island with the rain and snow going on. 40 degrees at Cordova. A little cooler in the Copper River Basin with Gulkana at 11. 0 at Northway with some light snow there. 5 degrees both at Delta and Fairbanks with a -2 there off to the west at Tanana. Then in the Koyukuk Valley, -6 at Bettles. 1 above Fort Yukon and 9 below at Arctic Village. Cold spots this afternoon at Selawik and up at Umiat, both at 11 below. The Arctic coast above zero everywhere there, from 2 above at Barter Island to 18 here toward Cape Lisburne. Barrow up to 12, and there's 0 at Deering, 12 degrees at Golovin, but 3 at Nome, and 19 out at Savunga there, St. Lawrence Island, 10 degrees in Amonic with 11 degree reading this afternoon at McGrath. Sleep Mute at 10, 9 degrees, about the same there in Bethel with 10 degrees at Macoriac, 20 degrees at Cape Newenham, and 23 at Dillingham, King Salmon 19, and then 30s here across the Alaska Peninsula, on Alaska at 34, but warmer air spreading into Nikolsky with 41, mid-40s here over the central Aleutians. Lows for tonight in the 30s, or actually lower 20s here to mid-30s for the Panhandle, teens and lower 20s here for south central Alaska, Copper River Basin and north and west of the mountains, generally below 0, but not all that far, just 5 to 15 below, and a little below 0 up along the Arctic coast, teens along the southwest coast of St. Lawrence Island, 30s here out over the Aleutians and the Bering Sea. Highs for tomorrow, upper 30s to lower 40s out in this area, warmest along the Alaska Peninsula and at Unalaska, 20s along the southwest coast, and upper 20s here, south central Alaska, to 30s along the North Gulf Coast, 30s, upper 20s to near 40 for the southeast coast, and mostly above 0 throughout much of the interior, with the exception of the North Slope and eastern Arctic coast. For flying weather, VFR in the forecast here for the southeast coast tomorrow. Marginal VFR possibly creeping northward across Prince of Wales Island from Dixon Entrance, and then marginal VFR here from the Koyukuk, Upper Yukon Valleys up across the Brooks Range to the North Slope, and then a band of IFR associated with that front pushing into the southwest coast, advancing eastward across Kodiak Island during the day. Marginal VFR in the increase here on the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, with a lot of marginal conditions back out over the Bering Sea, but improving down toward the Aleutians. Areas of VFR breaking out, Adak and Atka, possibly the eastern Aleutians, and this area IFR poised to slide on into the Pribilofs. Passes Anatuvik, VFR becoming marginal VFR during the day tomorrow. Adigan, same pattern, starting out with VFR conditions, and it looks like some moisture sliding northwestward, making things a little marginal, especially on the southern entrance of both Adigan and Anatuvik for tomorrow. Otherwise, for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR to start with, or I'm sorry, marginal VFR becoming VFR, but look for some marginal conditions on both eastern approaches. And then for Rainy, VFR becoming marginal there, with marginal VFR more persistent here over the, or more persistent throughout the day on the eastern approach. And for windy, marginal VFR here in the afternoon, trending to marginal here on the southern entrance, otherwise through the pass and into the valley, VFR. Isabel, VFR possibly becoming marginal throughout the day, and Mentasta should stay VFR the entire day. Same thing for Tanita, looks VFR. And Portage, marginal VFR. Chilcoot and White, VFR. For the freezing levels, 2,000 feet up over the Gulf of Alaska, but coming down the coastline of the Panhandle there. And then with that front nudging some warmer air northward here, again, the front back in this area, that's late tonight, early tomorrow morning. Again, the whole pattern shifting eastward rapidly, so these freezing levels will be coming down during the afternoon and then rising over Kodiak Island throughout the day. Surface here right across St. Matthew Island all the way out to the Russian coast. Icing, again, look for occasional rime icing here, possibly moderate Kodiak Island spreading into Bristol Bay, back out across the Yukon Delta to St. Lawrence Island. A little bit of that increasing over western Cook Inlet and the Alaska Range. Could be some icing here along Prince William Sound on the North Gulf Coast, another batch up here over the northeast, and then a more widespread area of rime and mixed icing, mostly below about 8,000 feet out here over the southeast Bering Sea and the Pribilofs, but that all staying north of the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians. And the upper level wind flow chart, upper low here over the North Slope, and flow coming around that about 40 knots, not all that strong. The main jet here, the Pacific jet, 130 to 150 knots, well to the south, and then even dropping farther south here with that upper low near the Queen Charlotte Islands. A little bit of a trough here from the North Gulf Coast up over the southeast interior. Again, keeping the skies on the cloudy side with a few scattered or isolated flurries and snow showers. A little more persistent or a little more widespread through this portion of that upper level trough through the central interior on up to the north. And at 9,000 feet, we've got southeasterly flow, 10 to 20 knots across the panhandle. Southerlies at about 15 through much of the eastern and central interior. And then much stronger winds, again with the front coming in, southeast 70 there right across Cape Newenham, 30 to 45 knots over the southwest interior. St. Lawrence Island to the southern Seward Peninsula, and then strong westerlies across the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians from Shimia all the way into the Alaska Peninsula, 40 to 60 knot westerlies. Same thing at 3,000 feet. Again, westerlies pretty strong here, 50 to 65 knots across the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians, right up the Alaska Peninsula. Southeast, 60 to 70 knots along the southwest coast, dropping back as you head inland to about 20 knots. Easterlies 20 to 25 knots over the north central interior, lighter along the Arctic coast up there. And not too bad here in the Gulf of Alaska. Light south winds, southeasterlies 10 to maybe 20 knots. Strongest winds will be near Prince of Wales Island for the panhandle. And taking a look at turbulence, pretty smooth here for the southeast coast for the most part, and the North Gulf Coast and eastern interior. But then with the strong winds, got occasional severe below about 4,000 feet here from roughly Dillingham, Togiak Bay, all the way to the northwest there across the deltas to St. Lawrence Island, with occasional moderate chop here advancing into Kodiak Island, especially in the afternoon hours, Alaska Peninsula, and that covering the entire Bering Sea and the Aleutians below about 6,000 to 8,000 feet. And after the break of Stargazer, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Orion in Perspective.
Hey there, stargazers. I'm Dean Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory.
And I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida. We're here to help you find your way around the sky. Now that we're heading into winter, it's time for one constellation to really shine.
That's right, James. Orion is the unmistakable king of the stars this season. You can find him by his distinctive belt of 3 stars in a row and several other stars that mark his body and head.
From Earth, the outline of Orion is easy to imagine. But what if you could take a trip off the Earth and sail among the stars? Would Orion still look the same from another solar system?
Well, let's show you. The stars are all different distances from us in space. The closest star is called Alpha Centauri, and we really should call this a system instead of one star. Alpha Centauri is actually 3 stars that orbit each other, 2 yellow suns and 1 little red one.
The system is about 4.3 light years away. That's about 25 trillion miles. So even though Alpha Centauri is closer than the other stars, it's not exactly close.
The farthest star you can see with the naked eye is Deneb. It marks the tail of the swan constellation Cygnus.
It's a whopping 3,000 light years away. So the distance to the stars you see at night can vary a lot.
Okay, we have our sky set to any night this week facing southeast. And behold, there he is, Orion in all his glory.
No stars tied together like those in the constellation of Orion. Let's outline the 3 stars in a row he wears for a belt. Their names are, from left to right, Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka.
From there, we can outline the rest of his body to show him as a mighty hunter with his upraised right arm holding a club and his outstretched left arm holding a shield. And he has other stars that form a sword hanging from his belt.
I know that takes a lot of imagination, but see if you can see him in the stars. Now, let's label Orion's other major stars. We have bright blue Rigel marking his foot, and the really red star named Betelgeuse marking his armpit.
His other shoulder star is a star called Bellatrix, and the other knee is called Saiph. Finally, his head star, which is kinda dim, is called Maesa.
Are you calling Orion dumb?
No, just dim. Anyway, From Earth, these 8 stars form a nice, neat pattern that our imaginations can turn into a giant hunter. They look like they're the same distance from us, but...
The closest of the 8 stars is Orion's shoulder, Bellatrix, at about 245 light-years away. That means the light we see shining from the star left it 245 years ago.
Next is Big Bad Betelgeuse, who is about 625 light-years away. So Orion's armpit is nowhere near his other shoulder.
Safe is a little farther at around 650 light-years, and Rigel measures about 773 light-years away.
Belt star Alnitak is about 800 light-years away, and Mintaka lies 916 light-years away.
Head star Misa is about 1,100 light-years away, and
Alnilam is a whopping 1,342 light-years away. That means that because we can see Alnilam as a bright star at such a vast distance, it must be humongous.
That's right. The diameter of Alnilam is 30 times that of our Sun. So, what if we launch off the Earth and travel faster than the speed of light to gain a different perspective on the stars of Orion?
When we come around to the side of these 8 stars, we can see Bellatrix far from the rest, and Alnilam way over on the other side. Can you see Orion and the stars now?
Definitely not from this perspective.
Let's head back home since I prefer our earthly view. So look for Orion this week and think about the vast distances to the stars.
And the vast emptiness between the stars.
Stargazing can definitely take your mind on some incredible journeys as you keep looking up.
Welcome back. Well, the sea ice analysis for today looked like this. Some open areas here on the north side of the Seward Peninsula are filling in today. And we've got ice St. Lawrence Island area, obviously all the way down into Bristol Bay. And the forecast continues through Monday for this to expand west and southwest 15 to 30 nautical miles. And moving on to the coastal forecast, southeast 20-25 knots for the north coast, easterlies at 30 knots for the south coast, with those seas up to 18 feet. Small craft advisories there for Clarence Strait, but northerly winds for Stevens Passage all the way up through Lynn Canal with 4-foot seas. And then those northerlies increased to 30 knots there for northern Lynn Canal on Saturday, with small craft advisories here for the central and southern inside waters. We've got southeast 30 knots for small craft advisories on the south coast, and then easterlies now at 35 knots for the gale force winds on the north coast with those 17 to 18 foot seas. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, east winds 15 knots, northeast 10 knots for northern Cook Inlet, but small craft advisories for those east winds for southern Cook Inlet. Gales, increasing gales tomorrow afternoon for Kodiak Island out of the south. Otherwise, small craft advisories for Shelikof Strait and the Barren Islands in Kamishak Bay. For the Saturday outlook, westerlies 25 to 30 knots blowing across Kodiak Island, as well as Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands. And then south 30 knots to southeast 40 knots for the North Gulf Coast with 16-foot seas. And we've got gale warnings out for Prince William Sound for easterly winds increasing to 35 knots, seas building to 9 feet. And small craft advisories here for Cook Inlet for north to northeast winds with 6 to 8 foot seas. Bristol Bay forecast, southeast 30 tomorrow. Gale southwesterlies here for the Alaska Peninsula with 15 to 21 foot seas. Southwest of Kodiak Island, southerlies at about 13 knots. And then for Saturday, strong gales here for the peninsula, 40 to 45 knot west southwesterlies. Diminishing back to about 30 knots for Bristol Bay, but seas up to 13 feet, and minimum gales there southwest of Kodiak Island. And for the Fox Islands tomorrow, 45 knot southwest winds with seas up to 27 feet. Westerlies here 50 to 55 knots for the central Aleutians, and that extends all the way out to Shemya. And then for Saturday, 45 knot westerlies here for the Unalaska Dutch Harbor area. Storm warnings here, 45 to 50 knot westerlies for the central Aleutians, and then southwest 35 knots for the far western chain. And for the southwest coast, north of Nunivak Island, east 40 knots, otherwise southeast 30 knots, east 45 knots for St. Lawrence Island, down into the northern Bering Sea, southwesterlies 35 knots with 20-foot seas for the Pribilofs. And those increase on Saturday, west 45 knots with seas building to 33 feet, south here 30 knots into Kuskokwim Bay, but north of the island, easterlies at 25, and then we've got some pretty brisk northeasterlies coming across St. Lawrence Island into the northern Bering Sea at about 30 to 40 knots. And up along the Arctic coast, east side, easterlies 15 to 20 knots, for the central coast, and the west side, east 15 knots. Easterlies here from Wales to Cape Thompson at about 20 knots. And then those pick up to gale force northeasterlies the next day on Saturday. 30 knot winds Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, and then northeast 20. Light northerlies there for the central coast and the east side. Looks like west winds here for the eastern coastline there at the demarcation point at about 15. And then for tonight, scattered showers here of rain or snow across the southeast coast as well as the North Gulf Coast. Look for some areas of light snow, but nothing very significant, with mostly cloudy skies, Copper River Basin. A little more widespread area light snow up here over the northeast, but clearing out back to the west. And then this next system bringing the wind into the southwest coast and the precipitation approaching Nunivak Island. Rain from the eastern Aleutians and moisture spreads into the Alaska Peninsula. It should change over to rain for the Pribilof Islands later tonight as those winds swing around to the southwest. And then for tomorrow, that front moves into the coast. Again, blizzard watches out for the Yukon Delta, St. Lawrence Island, the Bering Strait coast for tomorrow and tomorrow night. Trough brings some snow to the central interior all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast. Still some moisture here along the North Gulf Coast, but not a bad day. Dry for the most part there for the Panhandle. Then that front moves right across, brings the wind and rain back in for Saturday. And chance of rain or snow here for the Prince William Sound area, and snow showers and gusty winds over the Bering Sea.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
And when I saw it the first time several years ago when it was new to television, I thought it was Downtown Abbey. Once I watched, I think I started watching season 2, and I have become hooked on the excellent program. I think it's the best program on television. Those are the kind of things that public television provides for us. I think it's certainly worth a contribution and a donation because we need public television in Anchorage. We need it across our state.